In a world that feels so chaotic and completely out of control sometimes, where do we even look for real stability? Well, today we're diving into an ancient text, Psalm 2, that has a pretty surprising answer to that exact question. Let's get right into it.
The psalm just, boom, it drops you right in. It starts with this incredibly dramatic question. It doesn't ease you in, it just throws you into this storm of conflict. And honestly, it feels like it could have been written this morning, right? It immediately gets you thinking, what is all this chaos really about? So, what's really driving this global uproar? The psalm suggests it's not just random noise or bad luck. Nope, it's something way more specific and intentional.
And here it is. This is the key. This so-called rage isn't just chaos for chaos's sake. It's a deliberate resistance. The psalm paints this picture of earthly powers, of human systems, actively trying to, break the chains of a divine plan. It's basically a declaration of independence from any authority higher than themselves. But just as we're getting caught up in all that earthly drama, the perspective suddenly zooms out, way out. We're lifted high above the noise to see the exact same situation, but from a totally different vantage point. Heavens. And this is really the central contrast of the whole psalm. Down on earth, you've got all this rage and resistance. But the divine response? It's described as calm, steady, and just completely unshaken. There's no panic up there. From this higher view, the world's uproar isn't some massive threat. It's just noise against this backdrop of absolute authority. So if the view from above is so calm, what's the source of that unshakable confidence? Well, the psalmist points to one central figure, who's really the cornerstone of this entire plan. This person is called the Anointed One, the chosen king that God himself has installed. His authority isn't up for a vote, it doesn't depend on what's popular, it is the bedrock of the divine plan. Now, for Christians, this is a direct pointer to Jesus. In a way, this king is the guarantee that the whole plan is going to hold together. So because this anointed king is in place, the message becomes one of deep reassurance. All that chaos, the resistance, the uproar, none of it, and I mean none of it, can actually derail God's ultimate purpose. This is the anchor point of the whole psalm. The plan is secure, period. Okay, so the psalm doesn't just leave us with this giant cosmic drama. It brings the focus right back down to a super personal level. It shifts from this big declaration of authority to a direct and really heartfelt invitation. So how do we get from being on the side of rage to being on the side of peace? Well, the psalm lays out this really clear path. It starts with just acknowledging that higher authority. Then it's about how you respond with reverence. And finally, the last and most personal step is to take refuge. That final step, taking refuge, that's really the heart of it all. It's the destination the psalm has been leading us to the whole time. But what does that actually mean? See, taking refuge isn't about hiding or being passive. It's an active choice, an act of deep trust. It means finding a kind of security that doesn't rise and fall with your circumstances. It's a peace that the chaos can't actually touch. It's this experience of divine protection, and maybe most powerfully, of just being held by love. That's the real, tangible promise here. And this simple, powerful promise really sums up the entire invitation. It's not some complicated formula. It's the bottom line. Choosing refuge leads to blessing. That's the final word on what happens when we decide to align with this unshaken plan. So the key takeaway is pretty straightforward. The world can rage all at once, but the plan underneath it all is firm. And right there, inside that unshakable plan, there's an open offer of peace and security. And it's available to literally anyone who chooses it. And that leaves us with this final question to think about. We all live in a world that feels shaken a lot of the time. The message of Psalm 2 kind of forces us to ask ourselves, when everything around us feels unstable, where are we actually placing our trust? Where are you going to find your unshaken plan?